This is Election Talk. Election Talk with attorney Carrie Harper on Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people. Yes, it is 0:30, and we are here on Election Talk. I'm Carrie Harper. I'm a civil rights attorney, locally based. I may be locally based, but my hometown is Michigan City, Indiana. I am straight out of Indiana, which, when I say it's a beach town, you may not believe me, but it's actually a beach town. And if you look across the water, we can see the skyline to Chicago. Speaking of Chicago, anybody hear anything about Chicago last night? It was on fire. The Democratic National Convention was fire. It was energizing. It was exciting. Woo, it's a breath of fresh air because a month ago, I'm sure a lot of folks was daytime drinking after that debate. I hate to keep saying it, but it was really kind of that bad with Biden. We love him. God loves him. He did great last night, passing the torch to Kamala Harris, who's going to be potentially our next president. I know I might supposed to be a little bit objective, but it's hard to be objective with this kind of energy. It was just great. We had great speakers, great information. It is 77 days till the election. So we're going to give you more great information. We have a couple of guests, one guest in studio. We have one calling in. And if you know anything about me, I believe it's all about the judges. Okay, it's all about the judges. So we are going to have a judicial candidate who's in studio with us. We're going to give you a little bit of election information. We're going to talk about Prop 36. You guys might have heard a little bit about Prop 36, which is changing things up a little bit from Prop 47. We'll get into that with a second guest and talk about a little bit more election information. You guys know that if you want any details that you don't know, you can go to lavote.gov. You can call into that location or go to the website. Also, you can call the station, 310-520-KJLH, 310-520-5554. So we do have the phone lines up and running, and we're anxious to take calls. Our judicial candidate is anxious to answer them, as well as our second guest. So let's get to it. Let's talk about Tracy Blount, who is running for seat 137. She's been rated well qualified by the Los Angeles County Bar Association. She's been an attorney for more than 20 years, including 12 years of daily courtroom appearances as a trial counsel handling child abuse cases and neglect cases. She also graduated from UC Berkeley, so it seems like she's a brainiac on top of all that. She works at the county counsel's office in the sheriff's legal advisory unit, county counsel. So that would be the counterpart to folks suing the county for stuff. But we're not going to get into that right now.
Yeah.
So good morning, Tracy Blount. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, blessed and highly favored, especially after that energizing song, right?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord, for all you've done. It's a good day. So tell me, why do you want to be a judge?
Well, I want to be a judge. First, I'll say this. I work for county counsel's office, and I started as a paralegal in the sheriff's unit. And then I went to dependency, which is child abuse and neglect law, basically. And that's where I've been for my career since paralegal, except for 1 year where I went to the DA's office because I was waiting for county counsel to hire me.
Oh, that was smart to give him a little reason to hurry up, right?
Exactly.
I hear you.
I want to be a judge because in dependency court, you're basically in court every single day. You have trials every day. It's hard work. It is emotional, and the attorneys in dependency court are some of the best because they're grinding it out every single day. When you're in court like that every day and you're in front of a judge every day, you see what they're doing. You learn what their responsibilities are, especially in dependency court, I would say, because the judges not only are hearing all the cases, but they're the trier of fact. There's no jury in there because it's confidential. So the judges have the weight of understanding what all these families are going through, trying to get a child back to their family, to a healthy home. And on every issue they have, that there's a trial, they have to decide on it. So over the 12 years that I was in court every day, you learn, you grow, you understand what this judge is doing and how they're serving, most importantly, how they're serving the community. And, I'm a public servant now. I'm a government attorney, but kick it up a notch when you're a judge, especially in dependency court. So, and I was in front of some of the best judges, I feel. So.
And you still are, right?
And I still am. So, you learn, you understand what service is, what real service is. And that's why I want to be a judge.
So break down some of the terminology you use for the listener. When you say in dependency court, some folks might think that that's somebody's under the influence a little bit. Well,
I hear what you're saying.
What does that mean? That means you're over the folks who are foster parents and things like that?
Dependency law is child abuse and neglect law, in essence. I mean, you're dealing with child abuse and neglect cases. As an attorney for county council, we represent the county of LA and the board of supervisors and the departments of the county. So in my job, I would represent the Department of Children and Family Services.
The department that would take the child out of the home.
And there's a whole process to that. Social workers have to request permission to do that. They can't just go in and, contrary to what people think, there's some idea. They just go in and take the child. They don't do that. There's a process in place. They have to get permission from a judge and go through all of the procedures before they can do that.
Or unless an officer on views actual neglect and process, they can detain the child and then call for a social service worker, correct?
You're talking about like law enforcement?
Yes.
Law enforcement can do that, but the department has to do its own evaluation. What law enforcement does and what DCFS does are two different things. Because law enforcement is looking at crimes, DCFS is looking at child safety. So they have to do their own assessment. And if there's a home, that's fine. And, maybe the child is the issue, then they have to assess that. But they're not going to just take the child out of the home.
Sure.
Yeah, so there's a lot to it. It's a very specialized area of law. In fact, if a private attorney goes into the court to represent someone, the court will ask that person, have you been here before? Do you understand what we do here? Do you understand you can't just take this case and drop it? Things like that, because of how specialized it is. So
because some attorneys actually take the cases and kind of jump out.
They want to, yeah, because these cases can last for years.
Forever, right?
Yeah,
right.
They can. But the goal is reunification. We don't, in our courts, we don't incarcerate people. We're trying to get a healthy family back together, and the judges really care, and they're really trying to do that, and so are the attorneys. So hopefully this conversation will, get rid of some misconceptions out there.
And sometimes the reunification can take years, right?
Yes,
2,
it can.
3 years, and all that time the family is bonding with the foster parents.
All that time, it's not. The last step is a foster home. The first step is, can this child go home safely? If not, can the child be with a relative that they know? If not, a family friend who they know. So it's all about keeping the child kind of insulated, safe, and, stable, because it's traumatic. It's traumatic to take a child out of their home. So you don't want them to go, from home to somebody they don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's why you were saying earlier that it's heartbreaking, some of the work that you're doing, because it's emotional. You get emotionally involved with these cases, yes?
Yeah. I mean, just what you're reading every day, it's heavy.
Right.
And you're reading about child abuse and neglect. So it could be a child left in the car and it's hot, or a child that, has died and now their siblings are before the court because of, I don't know, mom's boyfriend killed the child, things like that. Now the siblings aren't safe in that home. And so it's everything. It runs the gamut.
How do you process that? Such heaviness?
When I started, my lead attorney told me there are going to be days where you feel heavy and you don't understand why. It's because of this. It's because of the weight of what you're doing every day. You just have to go home, wash it off, do something fun, watch a movie, get your mind off of it.
Because you can't just go home and leave it there. Or go home and leave it at work. You're going to take it home with you. Do you think that'll be more so or less so if you're blessed enough to make judge?
I think that it's the same. I think that it's the same weight, the same responsibility. More so, because as the judge, especially in dependency court, you're making the decision about this child and their placement and their life, and this family's life for a period of time. And that's a heavy responsibility.
Right, because the buck stops with you, and making that decision could...
Making a good decision for this child, to make sure that they are stable and getting their services that they need, and that the family is receiving services, so they can reunify. But for a period, if there is a case open for a period, there's going to be some, upheaval in the family. And that's hard for kids. So always we're thinking about, this case isn't just a case number. There are kids attached to this. That's how I view it. And so I have to make sure that it's moving along. I'm doing my part to move it along so that this child can get where they're supposed to be.
And I've asked some of the other candidates what they feel about the judge being the 13th juror, like putting his or her thumb on the scale and affecting things when you have a jury trial, because you normally would have a jury trial. But as you said, dependency court, the judge is the one, that heavy is a head that wears a crown. So you have to really have...
Exactly. The judge is the trier of fact. I mean, because these cases are confidential because they're about kids. So the public's not allowed in, and we can't share things, without the court's permission. And so the judge is making that decision on each and every case.
So we really have to keep the judges specifically in prayer in this section, even more so than other sections, because their stuff is secret. We don't know what they're doing behind them.
Even more so.
Right.
I can assure you, since I've been in this arena, this court system for my career, some of the best judges are there because they know and understand the weight of what they're doing. So,
and they have a different energy. They have like celebratory things. They celebrate, kind of like the diversion. What is the court where they give you? They bring in cakes. They celebrate.
Like drug diversion programs and things like that.
It was such I only went a couple of times but it was such a happy little diversion from the heavy felony.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? We try to keep it as light as we can because of the weight of, the heaviness of the subject.
Right.
So, I mean, everybody has good humor, and, we all, for the most part, you're working together every day. So you know who you're working with. You know the judge you're sitting in front of and how they are. And we all try to just work together to solve whatever the problem is.
Sounds like great teamwork. Do you think that you're doing such important work there that they can afford to lose you? That's a trick.
Well,
that's a trick question.
You know what? I actually haven't been in court for the past several years because I'm at the warrant desk, which is the part of the very front end of the case, and that's the part of the process where you're asking the judge's permission. So it's kind of like a search warrant. You're asking permission to go into the home to say, I need to take this child out of the home because it's not safe right now. And then the judge will grant the request or deny it, depending on what the evidence they have to support it.
Okay. Well, tell us what you look forward to. I was going to say look forward to the least, but I'm not going to put you on that. Tell us some of your endorsements.
As you said at the beginning, I've been endorsed by the, it's not an endorsement, it's a vetting process. The LA County Bar vets us all, and they will say you're either not qualified, you're qualified, well qualified, or exceptionally well qualified. Fortunately, I was deemed to be well qualified.
Which is the second highest one you can get.
Which is the second highest one. So
that's pretty admirable. A lot of controversy, though, about the LA County Bar Association, because when you say all of us get vetted, everyone actually does not get vetted.
Well,
Steve Cooley's daughter, Shannon Cooley, was not vetted. She did not get a rating from the LA County Bar Association. Well, and I think Victor Avila, who ran against Natasha, and forgive me, Natasha, if you're listening, all we had to do was write in the Natasha's name, not the last name.
That's right.
But when they're unopposed, they don't get vetted. What if these people are under investigation with their department, about to be fired? I mean, we know Shannon Cooley had a dad who was a DA, but we don't know her background. We don't know anything about her. So she didn't even get a rating. So, and we'd love to get Jerry Abels on. He's still in charge of the LA County Bar Association, right? We'd love to get, you're nodding. They can't hear you nod, but.
I'm not familiar with
Jerry Abels
specifically.
But so we'd love to get him on to explain why everyone is not vetted. Everyone is not given a rating. I know that nationally, I believe Joe Biden stopped looking to the ABA for their ratings for the federal judges because of the controversy in rating. So
I have heard that. I've heard, and I know that you're right. There are a couple of people, at least one that I know of that was running who was not vetted, and it was her choice, I understand, that she didn't want to be a part of that process because, there is
controversy,
I guess, about is it fair? Is it biased against, minorities?
Lack of diversity
like
on the committee. And if you have private counsel that aren't part of the DA's office or the public defender's office, then and you have all these agencies represented by them, how do they really get a fair shake? I mean,
all I can say is the vetting process that I understand it to be is based on the information I provided. I had to tell, and I had plenty of cases to provide in my career, and they contacted people who I was opposing in a trial, judges that I appeared before. So it wasn't just, hey, give me all your friends and I'm going to call them and everybody's going to say something nice. It was people who I went up against in court.
Sure.
And they can say whatever they want. And people told me, and I said, tell the truth. Whatever that is, if you had an issue, if you didn't, that's what you have to say.
Well, kind of like what you said. I hear what you're saying, and I could see why you're saying that, but kind of like what you were saying earlier, that you really work together, even with your counterparts. You're going to see these folks every day because you're working there every day. If your private counsel coming in, just like you said, the judge had to admonish them, hey, you're not just going to say hi and bye, you're going to stay. That person doesn't have the benefit of getting to know everybody in that department. So, so you're actually at a benefit if you go in every day. You all are like a family because even though you're going against each other,
that part might be true. But like I said, I had to give, I think, 5 cases that, with everybody on the case. An independency court, there can be 4 or 5 attorneys. It's not just plaintiff's counsel, defense counsel. It's me for the department. It's each parent has an attorney and the kids have an attorney. So there can be, and if there's more than one dad, each dad will have an attorney. So there can be a whole bunch of us in there. And private counsel, when they come in, you're right. They might not have the benefit of knowing all of us, but they also aren't going to be deferential, to anybody. So if they have an issue with anybody, including me, and the LA County Bar contacts them, they're going to say something.
And you're endorsed by other agencies as well. Do you want to let the listeners know
Sure.
what those are?
The LA County Democratic Party, the Los Angeles Times, numerous Democratic parties, Torrance Democratic Party, Stonewall, New Frontier, Citizens for Accountable Leadership, the African American Women's PAC,
Law PAC?
Law PAC. God, I can't think of all of them.
A lot.
Quite a few, yes.
And
they all vetted too. They have their own process.
Okay. And tell the listeners how they can reach you. We had another guest that was on, George Turner Jr. was on last week.
Oh, okay.
And he gave his information out. And, a lot of the websites with the judges, they don't have a contact page. They have a page where you could subscribe to their newsletter or donate. But it would be great if there was like an email address or a number. I know you don't want to give your direct number out, but maybe one of those Google whatever numbers so that, folks actually want to talk to you and, unpack it. I'm not asking you for it right now on the spot.
Okay.
I'm just making a general statement because it's sometimes hard for us to get in touch with them because they don't have their information on, and we don't want to call your agency because you can't campaign at your respective departments, right?
True.
So if anybody's out there making these websites, make it easy, sister, so we can contact these folks. But anyway, we have another guest coming up who went to the same college as you, Laverne College for Law School.
Okay.
Yeah, he's coming in. So do you want to tell the listeners how they can reach you and get on your website?
My website is Tracy Blount for Judge. That's Tracy Blount, my whole name, FORJudge.com. And my email address is tblunt, T for Tracy, Blunt, the number 4, judge @gmail.com. And I look at that every day. Okay. So anybody can feel free, and people have reached out to my email address and asked me questions, and I respond to them.
Okay. Do you want to stick around for a while in case we get some callers calling in?
Sure.
All right. So next up, unless we have a break. We have a break. I'm told from the guy pushing the ones and twos. I said it wrong, didn't I? See, when I try and skip out on my lane. Not pushing the ones and twos, Carrie. On the ones and twos. It's a throwback to the 2 turntables. 1, 2, 1, 2, right? That's where it came from. All right, good. So we're going to cut to break and come back. We're here at KJLH 102.3 FM.
Hey, it's Tammy Mack. This afternoon at 5:20, you can stop the scrolling. I'm not trolling. I got you. I am talking about everything trending. Oh, I'm going to hip you to the T. What's the T? You know that's me on Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.
Hey, looking for a school that guarantees greatness and success in all spheres of life? Well, look no further than New Design's Charter School. With a remarkable 100% graduation rate and 100% college qualification rate, their students are not just on the fast track to success, but also under a comprehensive support system. New Designs proudly boast of 5 sports programs and 20 dual college credit courses in collaboration with LA Trade Tech College and LA Southwest College. Plus, their New Designs Charter Technology integrated classrooms and 5 career pathways ensure students are prepared for the future. They even offer paid internships, giving their students real-world work experience. For more information, you can visit newdesignscharter.com and find out about enrolling your child for the 2024-25 school year. New Designs Charter School, where your child's future begins today.
Thinking
about purchasing an electric vehicle? At LADWP, we believe EVs should be accessible to everyone. That's why we're offering extra support for low-income customers on top of our exclusive rebates. You can qualify for additional funds to make your switch to an EV easier and more affordable. Visit LADWP.com/EV to learn how you can electrify your journey with the right EV and uncover how you can further benefit from federal and state tax credits when going electric. Electrifying access for every journey. Visit LADWP.com/EV.
We've got something frightfully fun just for you. Family, it's a De Lamar. Listen for your chance to win a family 4-pack of 1-day, 1-park tickets to Disneyland Resort. Halloween time returns August 23rd through October 31st. At Disneyland Park, the Haunted Mansion holiday is back with festive surprises and Halloween screams that light up the night with villainous visions and haunted tunes. Over at Disney California Adventure Park, experience Guardians of the Galaxy, Monsters After Dark, fantastic treats, and celebrate Plaza de la Familia with colorful entertainment, delicious home-style dishes, and special character appearances. It's a festive experience you don't want to miss. Keep listening to 102.3 KJLH for your chance to win. Good luck!
For all of us, this generation and the next, there's simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads and tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com. Zero litter is the goal.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now, smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible, it's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
My name is Tim Moore, and this is my wife, Julie.
We were in search of an honest and reliable contractor to install an air conditioning unit to keep our home cool from the unbearable summer heat.
So we called Jerome's SoCal Home Improvement. Jerome came out immediately to assess our needs and determine the absolute best unit for our home. Jerome's highly trained installation team craftsmanship far exceeded our expectations,
which prompted us to hire Jerome for an additional roofing project for our home. They completed the work within the promised time frame and were meticulous in their cleanup. All inspections passed without a hitch.
And best of all, Jerome offered us 100% financing options. They will accommodate your budget to help ensure your home improvements are achievable.
We highly recommend Jerome's SoCal Home Improvement for anyone looking to upgrade their home efficiently and affordably.
Get down, baby.
Hi, you know me, Jerome. Call me, 844-534-7336, or log on to youknowmejerome.com.
You're listening to Election Talk with attorney Kerry Harper on Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.
All right. We are back at Election Talk. And we are trying to get you ready for this election coming up in 77 days, folks. 77 days. It's going to be a historical election. So next up, we have an expert, I call him an expert in appellate law, Mark Harvis. He retired about 2 years ago after about 35 years at the Public Defender's Office. Now, Mark won't tell you this or anybody else this, but he is the go-to person for any attorney who's in trial. If you're stepping in it or a judge is stepping on you, forgive me for saying that, it does happen. If you're stepping in it or a judge is stepping on you, you call Mark, and Mark is the go-to guy. I have been in trial literally, and during a break, conferencing with Mark, and he's citing all this on-point appellate law. And he's like, just say it on the record, Carrot. Memorialize your objections, federalize it, do whatever you can. He gives me everything in the kitchen sink to throw against the wall. So Mark is the guy. So we have Mark on hold. All right. Good morning, Mark Harvis. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Carrie. It is indeed 0 dark 30.
And is that why you're not sitting next to me, Mark?
You know, I think that might be part of it. It's nothing to do with you. I love you, Carrie.
I love you too, but I would have loved you more actually sitting next to me. But other than that, you and I were talking last night, and we were watching the Democratic National Convention. Did anyone or anything jump out at you before we start talking about Prop 36?
You know, I was really touched by Joe Biden's speech, and I mean, it actually made me tear up towards the end. He, you know, I mean, it was a lot for him to put the country first and bow out so that the vice president could, you know, take the seat and run for the big job. So he did the right thing, but I imagine that was really hard for him, and I was really touched by that. I also loved AOC's speech.
She was,
and Hillary Clinton's speech.
She was great.
They were on fire.
Hillary Clinton got the applause like a rock star. She got her flowers, and I was so glad that they gave this woman her flowers. My God, what she's been through. And, you know, and then Ashley Biden, Joe Biden's daughter, who was, I guess she said she was a social worker in Philadelphia. She called her dad the love of our lives and the life of our love. I thought that was very poignant. And
that was very special. I agree with that. Yeah, I totally agree.
You know what I like, too? I like this guy. I never heard of him before. He was the president of the AUA. I'm sorry, the UAW, the United Auto Workers. Sean Fain said Kamala Harris is one of us. Now, I like that he's speaking to a lot of people that look like him. And, you know, he happens to be one of our Caucasian brothers. And I enjoy that he said what some folks might be thinking and not want to say. He literally said, she's one of us, guys. Vote for her. And we need our Caucasian brothers and sisters and everybody else and 3 more people to tell somebody, hey, she's one of us. Go ahead and vote.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. I thought that the first night of the convention was marvelous. Mostly, the speeches were great. The energy is incredible. And then, absolutely incredible.
And then VP Harris came out like a rock star. She surprised everybody. I didn't think we were supposed to see her this early.
Yes, yeah. And then she went on stage to hug Joe, and boy, that's where I really got teary.
Yeah,
so I was really impressed.
I think it's authentic. It's not pretend. It rang really genuine, and I was grateful for that. Mark,
yes, I agree.
We were talking about Prop 36 and how it seemed to engulf Prop 47. Do you want to touch on each of those a little bit and just describe what the first one is for Prop 47, because that was enacted when you were still,
Sure. Prop 47 was enacted back in 2014, so it's 10 years old now. And it was actually passed by almost 60% of the voters. The yeses had 1.2 million more votes than the noes, so it was very popular. And the whole point of it was a recognition that just taking these minor crimes, like they're nonviolent crimes. I mean, they're important to the people that are the victims, but they're nonviolent crimes. Things like some shoplifting and crimes like that, they're nonviolent. These aren't robberies. These aren't home burglaries or anything like that. They're just shoplift. And also taking some drug crimes. And prior to Prop 47, some of these crimes were either felonies, like possession of cocaine was a straight felony, or some of them were what are called wobblers, meaning the prosecutor could file them as either a misdemeanor or a felony. And it seemed like at the time, and it still seems that way some of the time, the prosecutors would overfile cases. You have something that's basically a petty theft from a department store, and the prosecutor would always file, say, for example, a felony burglary. And the voters said, you know what, that's just a little too much. We've got too many people in prison. There's a racial disparity with the people that go to prison. More people of color are in prison. The sentences tend to be harsher for people of color. So they wanted to say, look, we're going to decrease these to misdemeanors. They're all nonviolent. There are a lot of exclusions. And then we're going to say we're not going to send people to prison. We're going to send them to county jail. We're going to give them a misdemeanor sentence. And then they took the money that was saved, and in the 10 years, it's been estimated that it's $800 million.
Wow.
And they took that money. They took that. The LA Times reported a couple of days ago it's $100 million. They were wrong. It's $800 million, according to the Vera Institute. 60% of that money went to CDCR in order to do mental health and
when you say
drug abuse treatment.
Break down CDCR for us.
That is the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. But it's used through them for drug abuse treatment and mental health treatment. Another 25% of that money went to the State Department of Education to support truancy programs and dropout programs. And then the last 10% went to support victims of crimes who suffer from trauma. So it reduced the prison population. When it reduced the prison population, it freed up money, and that $800 million comes from that. Another benefit was it allowed folks who had felony convictions for the crimes that are in the statute to go to court and get those reduced to misdemeanors. And that's really important for folks. You know, somebody could have 5, 10 years ago, longer, 15 years ago, been convicted, say, of simple cocaine possession as a felony. And think of how that affects their ability to get a job. I mean, if you go in, you're looking for a job, and you've been convicted of a felony. I mean, of course, you know, you can run for president with 34 felony convictions, but you can't, you can't get a job. And it's extremely difficult. So this allowed those folks to come in, get those felonies reduced, including some people who were in prison to come in and say, okay, I should be doing less time because now it's a misdemeanor. And it reduced, I'm not sure the numbers, but I understand it reduced the prison population, something like by 28%. So more people now go to county jail than would go to prison because of Prop 47.
Right. And so with now Prop 36, we're going to be facing having nonviolent folks in there, and it's going to be overcrowding for when you actually get violent folks that you need to have in there, right?
Yeah, that is one of the problems with what Prop 36 does. Is it doesn't eliminate Prop 47, but it rolls it back. And so there's new penalties for drug use and a broad range of theft offenses. So, and some new sentencing enhancements, which means that more people are going to go to prison. So all that money that is coming back and is being used in the communities, they're going to lose a lot of money, because when people go to prison and it costs over $100,000 a year to put somebody in prison, that's really expensive. That's more money than it costs to go to a UC, including everything, for a year, or a Cal State for almost 4 years.
Right.
So Prop 36 will increase prison time for those who use drugs. Remember, Prop 47 was personal use, didn't apply to sales or anything. So it will mandate some drug treatment in some cases. It also reduces funding for such treatment. So you're going to mandate treatment, but then you're going to reduce funding. So that's kind of weird. That doesn't work.
Sounds like Prop 36. It's really kind of responsive to the snatch and grab store owners who are a little pissed off.
Well, you know who's pushing?
They're getting robbed.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it seems like
they're pushing this.
Yeah, who is?
The retailers like Target and Walmart.
Exactly.
And let me tell you one other group that's pushing it. California Correctional Peace Officers. They're the ones that staff the prisons. They want more people in prison, because that means more jobs for them, more overtime.
Job security. That is so wrong.
Job security. So they're one of the big backers of this. Now, I interrupted you, so I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And we were talking about Gavin Newsom is actually opposing this one.
Gavin Newsom is opposing Prop 36. There are a number of mayors in the state of California who are supporting Prop 36 because of, I mean, you mentioned it, the smash and grabs. The smash and grabs are robberies. They're not petty thefts. I mean, those are robberies where somebody comes in and takes property using force, like a hammer to smash something. That's a robbery. Prop 47 doesn't affect those anyway. Those are serious felonies that carry some significant prison time.
Well, the robbery and the things that they're showing on TV, that wouldn't technically be a robbery unless there's an actual person involved. That would be a burglary if there was no one there. If they're stealing in the middle of the night and they're not taking from a person with the use of force or fear, then that's not a robbery. So
no, I was thinking more of going into the department store when it's open and they a group of people rush in and they start smashing jewelry cases.
In the
when the store is open.
Yeah,
in the daytime.
And these folks are insured. These big companies are already insured, so they're getting covered anyway. So I'm just wondering, what's their motivation if they're already being covered?
Well, I understand the outrage. I think we all can, that somebody who runs a store, and some of these people are like mom and pops. You know, a jewelry store can be a mom and pop. Sneaker stores. Somebody goes into a sneaker store, and although these are usually at night, so they would be burglaries. And you know, I read in the paper that somebody stole $80,000 in sneakers from a store a couple days ago, and they just drove a vehicle and smashed into the store. That would be a burglary, would not have been covered by Prop 47 anyway. I can understand the outrage. You know, not everybody's Walmart, not everybody's Target. They can be smaller places. So when they're that type of crime, a nighttime burglary, that can be charged as a felony anyway. So that doesn't change by Prop 47.
Basically, what you're saying is we don't need Prop 36. It's an overreaction to a problem that's already being addressed by other things that are in place, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. The governor just signed, I think it was Friday, just signed 10 bills that all or almost all deal with the retail crime problem. 10 bills. Some of what he signed is duplicative of what's in Prop 36. Mm-hmm. So while the legislature has been criticized for not doing anything and just letting this happen, they did act. The governor signed 10 bills, and they will make a difference. One of the big ones that I think is a big one is the idea of aggregating value. So if somebody goes into 10 different stores, they go into Kohl's, they go into Target, they go into Walmart, and they steal $200 in each store, then that's 10 petty thefts. But if under the new law, they can combine all those. So 10 $200 thefts is $2,000, then that gets the felony level. Couldn't do that before. So that's something new that one of the bills that the governor signed allows that. You know, an interesting thing is the threshold in California is $950 between a misdemeanor petty theft and a felony grand theft. That's lower than 40 other states. Texas, I think, has $2,500. So California's in the mainstream on that as far as value.
And we were talking about speaking of the governor, we were talking about this other situation where he's out there in his work boots and cleaning up stuff and saying that, and he happens to be doing it in LA County, saying that counties who don't clean up houseless folks aren't getting money from him. Basically addressing our mayor because she's not kicking out houseless folks. What are your thoughts about that? That's kind of in our face, thumbing your nose. You're coming to our county, thumbing your nose. I like Gavin Newsom, but, you came here in our home ground kind of thumbing your nose at our mayor.
It's an interesting thing. There are a number of Democrats in the state Senate and the state assembly that are very vulnerable. They're in vulnerable districts. And the populace, the voters, are upset about crime. And homelessness. They're upset about crime and homelessness. And they see the encampments and they see their government doing nothing, seemingly. So in order to help these endangered Democrats, I think the governor has moved forward with his, if there's an encampment, you have to do something. You can't just let it sit there. You have to offer them housing, and then you have to clean the encampment.
But the thing is that our mayor is doing that and trying, but there's only so many places that one can go. And some folks who are actually houseless, some may not want to be housed. I mean, that's just reality. Some are choosing their freedom as opposed to some type of mandate that they have to follow to go into these homes. I can think of a millionaire houseless woman who's still on the street, but she's a millionaire named Marlene Bennett, who's not coming. She was beaten up by CHP a few years ago and received a considerable settlement, but due to other issues and mental unavailabilities, she's choosing to largely live her life within the freedom of not being in a house all the time.
Isn't that kind of the rub? Is the mayor and the county supervisors have made a point of housing first. They want to go out to people and say to them, we don't want you living on the street, especially if you're mentally ill. We don't want you living on the street. We want you to live in a house. It's better for you. Or an apartment or something. Mm-hmm. You're going to be housed. It's better for you. You're safer. Your property's protected. So people will go in, but not everybody. And so when people don't go in, then that's the rub of what do you do? When somebody says, somebody who's mentally ill or drug addicted or both, says, I'm not going to go into housing. I want to live on the street with my friends in this encampment. That presents a problem for the government to say, do we just let them sit there? Well, then you've got these encampments that are dicey, let's just say, or people living in RVs, 20 RVs on the street where they're dumping sewage. Residents don't like that, and you can't blame them.
And business owners, if they're camping out in front, we still have judicial candidate Tracy Blount, who's running for seat 137 in studio, and she works, I don't know if you were listening earlier, Mark, she works in dependency, where they at times have to take the child into their custody, well, not custody, but to protect them from the parents. And I would guesstimate that some of the folks that you have to take the child from certain situations might be parents who are experiencing houselessness. Yes?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm asking.
No, actually,
you're probably directing it to her.
Yes, I am. That's okay.
Actually, poverty, being poor, is not a basis to remove a child. There has to be some neglect or something in addition to that. Like they're, exposed, parents use drugs, they're not getting them to school, all kinds of factors have to go into it. It can't just be that parents are homeless.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you find that sometimes they happen to be homeless and then there are other factors that are taking place that you just mentioned?
I wouldn't say that happens often. I really wouldn't, actually.
So you haven't had an occasion to run in a lot of houseless parents in your dealings at dependency court?
I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't say that there's a huge number of, unhoused that we have to take their children have to be detained or removed from them. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the bulk of it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was an interesting story in the LA Times yesterday about, speaking of dependency and foster children, is when they age out and they turn 18, there's many that are homeless. And that was the focus of this article, was that even though the system is still intended to provide for them after they turn 18, some of them just end up homeless and they don't have, the system is not working for them. And the LA Times did a good story on that.
I think I saw that too, Mark. And Miss Blount or Tracy Blount, have you experienced that too, where the folks are older and now they're kind of they're out of the protection age?
There's actually a special court they're called non-minor dependents, and that takes, that takes them up through age 21.
Oh, that's
so cool. Yeah. So there are laws in place, and there is an actual, at least in LA County, there are courtrooms. There's a special courtroom for that age group to make sure that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. So,
well, at least there are some protections.
There's some protections in place.
Well, that's a good thing. And I just wanted to remind any of the listeners, if they wanted to call in to KJLH 102.3 FM, they can do so at 310-520-5554, 520-KJLH. So, Mark, you were talking a little bit about the Boise case. Anything else you want to add? That's the houseless.
Yeah, I can talk about it very quickly, which is the Ninth Circuit a few years ago, well, actually a number of years ago, issued a decision in the city of Boise that basically, I'm really paraphrasing, said that.
And Boise is in California.
No, Boise's in Idaho, but it covers the western United States, including California. I knew you knew that. I know you knew that.
I had to make sure it's 0 dark 30, Mark. I had to make sure that I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know you knew that. So what they said was that basically people have a right to live on the streets. And if they have a right to live on the street, it violates the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, to force them off the streets. Mm-hmm. And that was the rule for many years until the U.S. Supreme Court just very recently said, no, that's not the rule. It's not a crime to be homeless, but it's not cruel and unusual punishment, doesn't violate the Eighth Amendment, and cities and government can force people off the street.
When you say it doesn't violate the Eighth Amendment, which addresses cruel and unusual punishment.
Cruel and unusual punishment.
What you're saying is that the government kicking folks off the street is not cruel and unusual punishment pursuant to this case that went to the
Supreme Court said.
Yes, so it went up from Boise, from that one area. The Supreme Court pulled it up so that they can make this decision to apply it to all the states, not just Boise, Idaho, right?
Yeah, I think the case was actually a subsequent case out of Oregon. And so it wasn't specifically the Boise case, but it was the rule that the Ninth Circuit adopted in Boise that was being challenged through a city in Oregon. But so that's what they ruled, is they overruled Boise. And as I just said, it now allows communities to forcibly remove people, which is what we know Mayor Bass is doing some of that, but she has her Inside Safe program, which is designed to bring people off the streets and not just moving from one place to another, which is the problem. And
when you say Inside Safe, the letters SAFE, that's an acronym for...
Yes. I don't even know what that stands for.
Okay.
I just knew it was Inside Safe.
Right. I think we have a caller coming in, Mark. You want to hang on for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So, good morning, caller. Do we have a name? Okay, well, we don't necessarily have one right now, it looks like. Okay, so, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored. Who am I speaking with? Doesn't show a name.
Miss C, how are you today?
Miss C, I'm blessed. How can I help you?
So the lady on, I didn't catch her name because I tuned in late. She stated that there's a special court that protects foster youth once they've aged out at 18 to 21. But how does that prevent them from being homeless?
Her name is Tracy Blount, and she's a judicial candidate for seat 137. Ms. Blount, you want to take that call?
Yes, I can't say that it prevents someone from being homeless. What I can say is if a child is has been in foster care or is in the system and they age out, meaning they're 18 years of age to 21, there's a courtroom where services are going to be provided to them, like transitional housing. They have to, they're kind of mentored to get a job or be in school or something like that. If that young adult doesn't want that, there's nothing that anybody can do about it. And then, they're kind of making the decision to go on their own. But there were laws put in place to prevent that age group from, being on the street.
And is transition housing, is that an apartment or is that a group home?
Transitional housing is like an apartment.
They get their own apartment? The county gives them their own apartment?
Well, they assist with housing. So they could have transitional housing like David and Margaret Group Home out in Laverne has transitional housing for the young ladies that they service.
That's group home, though.
It is a group home setting, but it's not always transitional housing. The young adult can stay with a relative. They can stay with it's called non-related extended family member. They can stay somewhere, and DCFS is going to make sure that they have a place to stay.
Well, if they didn't have a place to stay and they came in the system in the first place, how would they have a place to stay between 18 and 21?
That's where transitional housing can come into play. It's not just at a group home setting like David and Margaret. There are facilities, there's housing around that DCFS is going to try and help them get so that they're stable, that they're working, that they're going to school, and that they aren't going to end up homeless.
Okay. Miss C, I hope that answered your question. We're running up to Steve Harvey time. Mark, any final 15-second? Actually, you don't have 15 seconds.
Yes.
Any final 15-second words?
Prop 36 is not the law. It's an initiative. It's on the ballot. Make sure that you register to vote and that you vote. That'll make a difference.
And
Please
we want to,
vote.
yes, and we want to say that, yes, there is a quote-unquote deadline at the end of October to register to vote. However, if you find yourself, we don't want you to wait till the last minute, but if you find yourself past that date, you can still register and vote, but your vote will be viewed as a conditional ballot. We want you to vote no matter what. Even if you think you caught a little felony situation, still go vote because we got a felon on the ballot. No matter what, still go vote. Everybody, how about you vote early?
Yes.
Don't wait till the last minute, vote early. So I just wanted to, let me give a couple shots out. Can I give a shout out to Imelda at the DMV who's holding it down as she keeps that line moving. I'm not going to say a couple of other things, but Imelda, thank you. You know what I mean.
Yeah, thank you.
And Vince, you were right. Tell Raquel, you were right. And Andrea for holding it down. Oh, it takes a village. Thank you all. So, Mark, I appreciate you coming in. We're at Steve Harvey time. Be sure to turn in every Tuesday for Election Talk. We're going to do this up until Election Day. I'm Carrie Harper, and that is the end of Election Talk. Thank you, guys.
102.3 KJLH and KJLH HD, Compton, Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Inglewood. Radio